folks, in today's video we're going to talk about submarine canyons. This one's off the west coast of Africa and it's over 400 kilometres long, but we've got lots of them in Australia. These are off Portugal, and that top one's called the Nazare Canyon, and let me tell you, it's quite special. If this canyon is very deep, that blue area is 5,000 metres deep, and in this next image the purple area is 5,000 metres deep, and in a fairly short period of time it gets up to the top. So that's a 5 kilometre slope. So if the waves are coming from just the right direction and they run up this canyon, and this canyon runs right to the coast, when that happens you get this, the Nazare break. And these meatheads are on 100-foot high waves. You know, I don't know to respect them or lock them up, but anyway, it's not my problem. Let's get into it. If you dig the vibe, like and subscribe. And you know what I'm going to say. Let's rock!
Rocking with T-Rocks, he's the man, he'll show you what it means. From our mystic shores to outback sands. Rocks, he's your guide to our ancient land. He's your guide to our ancient land.
Hey folks, here we are off Portugal. Did anyone else see a circle there? It's called the Tagus Abyssal Plain. It's not an impact crater, but it was thought to be for quite a while. This is the Nazare Canyon we talked about briefly in the intro. This thing is 5 kilometres deep at the bottom end. And there are lots of canyons here. Here's another one. We'll see some more detail about these soon. There's the Straits of Gibraltar. Just look at the damage when those straits broke through, what they did to the ocean floor on the inside there. Just amazing. Down in West Africa here we have another canyon, which is a very long canyon. It's 450 kilometres long. This is the Agadir Canyon, and its debris fan may extend up to 1,000 kilometres into the ocean. Just amazing. Once you see these things, so hey Bushcraft Bear, down in the old Canary Islands there, that big river there is called the Niger River, and it's a really long river, as you can imagine. Timbuktu's at the top end of that. 1,500 kilometres long river. Speaking of long rivers, here's the Congo. Now the Congo submarine canyon is a little different because it goes right up into the river. There it is there, it digs right up into the delta, which is just amazing. And it's also quite long. The river's quite long too. Yeah, 4,500 kilometres long. Not nearly as long as the Nile or the Amazon, but still pretty long. Look at Africa, it's such a big country. It's just spins of boys from Queensland's head. Through the Earth's trouble spots here, over to the Indus River. So this is coming through Pakistan again, a very old area of civilization here. The Submarine Canyon there just carves through the continental shelf. Now people think, oh, they're all rivers, T-Rocks. Obviously, oh no, they're not all rivers. Rivers are important, but it's not the water that does this. Fresh water is lighter than salt water, it stays on the surface. And we'll see the mechanism. And of course is the Big Daddy, the Ganges and Brahmaputra Delta. And it cuts right through the continental shelf in a big way and carves the turbidity flows take that debris right out into the Bay of Bengal there. It's just amazing. Just to pull back here a bit, nothing to do with rivers, just look at this part of the world. It's just so amazing, the Himalaya and India. So we just moved over to Japan. That's Tokyo Bay up in the top left there, and that's the Japanese Trench. It's 8 kilometres deep. It's 8,000 metres deep. Some big turbid flows there. Here's some more up off Hokkaido. An amazing place up there. and called the Hikurangi Canyon. It's very long. We'll cross to the other side of the Pacific here, over to North America, and just off Alaska, the TurbidFlows in this western coast of the Canada, the United States, are just amazing. We could sit here for hours talking about each one of them. Some of them are really long, as you can see. They're tracking hundreds of kilometres out into the Pacific. We'll stop and have a look at one here, because there's one of them that's really quite amazing. It's called the Cascadia Channel, and it's fed by quite a lot of canyons, and they feed into this one turbid channel, and it runs across a continental plate and way out into the Pacific. It's huge. It's just, I think it's over 2,000 kilometres long, they believe. And you can see here's the feed system for it here. And it runs across you can see the plate there, and there's all those canyons feed it. And they don't all feed it at the same time, but they all do feed. Just sediment comes down and blows through that channel, and has been doing it for quite some time, as you could imagine. So let's just move on a little now to the one that probably most people have heard of, called Montaray Bay and the Montaray Bay Canyon. There's another one to the south that you can see off LA. The Montaray Bay Canyon is very deep and comes in quite close, and it's actually fed from a number of little channels there, and it goes way out into the Pacific. Way out. And there's a fan, a debris fan down there, which they've measured. That's been very well studied, that one. So let's pull back. We've had enough of the northern United States. There's a lot of Google Earth in this one, people, because these canyons cannot be really viewed any other way. Let's go down to NZ, and this is Otago in New Zealand, and all of these canyons off southern Otago, as Dunedin and whatever, they feed a thing called the Bounty Channel, and there it is there. Now this is quite a long channel. The Bounty Channel it's 800 kilometres long, and at the bottom end there, when it gets onto the abyssal plain, it's 5 kilometres deep. It's a really long turbidite channel, and it's just amazing. Just a little north of that, we have another fantastic channel. This is called the Hikurangi Channel, and it runs to the north, and it feeds into a thing called the Hikurangi Channel. Yeah, I don't do New Zealand names very well, Maori names too well, but anyway, that's just me. So if we pull back, you can see that, but I will draw it in for you. It's a really, really amazing channel. Again, it ends in about 5 kilometres of water out on the abyssal plain, and carries a lot of turbidity down from the Cook Strait area of New Zealand. We'll just pull back and we'll do one of our little drawings for you. It is a huge channel. It's fed by more feeders than that. That's just the ones I bothered to draw in. And just look where it travels, right along the edge of the North Island, and just keeps going down out into the abyssal plain, and the fan eventually stops there and feeds out into there. That is just an amazing channel. It really is. So let's have a look at the Australian subsea canyons. Well, folks, before we do that, let's have a little bit of context here. This is to scale vertically, not horizontally, obviously, but vertically. So there's some landmarks up there you might sort out. Our Japan Trench we talked about is in here, about 8,500 metres deep, and the abyssal plains we're talking about in all of these turbidites are between 4 and 5 kilometres, 4 and 5,000 metres deep. And for some reason we're finding oil way the hell down here. We must look into that one day. So, T-Rox, you've used the word turbidite and you've used the word submarine canyon. What are you talking about? Well, here's what I'm talking about. When sediment moves across the ocean floor, it's called a turbid flow. And the artifacts it leaves behind are called turbidites. And these channels are exactly that. So these slopes are not particularly steep. They are sometimes 5 degrees, sometimes 10 degrees. If you walked up them, you'd know you're walking up a slope, but it wouldn't be hand over hand. It wouldn't be a scramble. But what happens when all of this sediment drops and sits? and sits, and all of a sudden something breaks it loose and it starts to move. And you get this, flying across the ocean floor. This is in real time, by the way. And you can imagine this, that weighs, say, you know, several million tons. And it's sitting on top of rock that is just carved. It just carves it away. Because this happens over tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. And these canyons are really deep. I mean, some of these things are bigger than the Grand Canyon. They're just underwater, so we don't get to see them. I'll do it again in slow motion. This is a fairly violent event. It's the closest thing we see is probably an avalanche or a big rock slide up on the surface. But underwater, these things go on for absolutely hundreds of kilometres because of gravity. And where does it get the energy? It doesn't look like it has the energy. Well, I think before we look at the Australian canyons, let's have a look at the energy involved in one of these things, because it's probably not what you think. So the energy in one of these flows is really their gravitational potential energy. E equals mass times gravity over height. There's the deal there. On the Earth, we'll call it 9.8 for the gravitational constant because, you know, that's what it is mostly. So let's say we've got a cubic kilometre of ocean sediments. It weighs about a terakilogram, you know, about 1 million tonnes. It's actually heavier than that because it's heavier than water. A kiloton of TNT, something we can all relate to, is about 4.184 terajoules of energy. You know, 25 kilotons, you've all heard it. So if we plug that into our formula, because we're doing this in terakilos, we get the answer in terajoules. 9.3 kilotons of potential energy for every ton of this stuff. Now, 200 cubic kilometres of this stuff slid. That's 1.8 megatons. That's on the Grand Banks, and it's happened before. We just weren't around to see it. So there's plenty of energy here to dig these canyons, believe me. Now, I know it's off topic slightly, but that formula is the same formula and the energy is the same for rocks that are elevated. Yes, Capera Quarry, it's you I'm talking about. So this is not a particularly big granite boulder, but it gets away. And all of that energy is being turned from potential energy into kinetic energy as it speeds away down the hill, and a fairly mature oak tree in this case, gets wiped out. So beware falling rocks. When you see the sign, pay attention. Well, we're off Perth here. Yeah, we made it to Australia. This is the Perth Subsea Canyon. It is enormous, very deep. Not particularly long through the continental shelf, but it goes on a bit. There's a nice piece of crust drop there. Wouldn't want to be on that coast when that happened. This is obviously a past Esperance here. There's subsea canyons all along here. Across the Australian Bight, big crack there in the sub now. What we're getting into here is just off Adelaide and off the Murray River, just as Kangaroo Island going past there. The Murray River Canyon system is also quite large. We're going to spin around. There's Port Phillip Bay. And what we've got here is the Bass Strait Subsea Canyon. It is enormous. Bigger than Flinders Island, bigger than Port Phillip Bay. Absolutely enormous. Up the coast we go. Nice little piece of crust has dropped out there. Again, would want to be around when that had happened. Some time ago, I think. Up the coast, there's a fairly good smattering of subsea canyons and crustal blocks that have slipped. And we start to get into some serious stuff up here off Byron Bay, because the continental shelf's quite steep here. There's Byron down there. There's the Tweed Delta fan there, huge. Up here, and there's Moreton Bay and the Moreton Bay Canyons. So we're right up north here, folks, off Princess Charlotte Bay, and look at the size of that canyon draining the sediment out into the base of the coral sea there. It's enormous, and there is a myriad of canyons off the Great Barrier Reef. I'd need a whole video just on those, so we'll give them a miss today. Let's whiz across Australia, because our next major canyon is over here at Exmouth. And g'day Moss, g'day Strata, that's Mossy over there. This is a huge canyon system over here off Exmouth. And we'll just whiz back up off the abyssal plain here and have a little wait on it. It's just huge. Lots and lots of canyons heading to the south, all the way off Geraldton. Big canyon systems. The continental shelf is really quite broad here. Those lines on the ocean floor, by the way, are artifacts of the ship towing the sonar. And there's the Perth Canyon, of course. We're back to where we started. It's a big canyon. It really is. Let's go down and have another look. Why not? You can see the lines where the sonar marks are on the ocean floor. And there we go. So I bet you're wondering, how the hell does this place produce waves like this that are actually surfable for humans, possibly? I mean, that's just a 30-metre wave. And he's in there. You got towed on a jet ski, of course. You'd never paddle into that. You'd die. And some of them do die. It's a dangerous place, as you could imagine. So anyway, how does it work? Well, there's that little fort you see in all those shots. And here's the Nazare takeoff zone. Now, this is a very unique place. These waves don't happen all up and down the coast. When the swell comes from just the right direction, and the wind is in the right direction, mainly the swell, the canyon comes right up to the shore here. It's enormous. So the swells come up out of this canyon, and they interact with the other swells. And if it's just right, they interact in a positive way, and they add to each other. And that's where you get these big swells. They're just there. It's absolutely amazing. So we'll have a little look at some of these other canyons around the world. Ones that I can find some information. There's lots of them. We can't look at them all, but let's have a look at a few of the more interesting ones. So West Africa, Morocco, Agadir, the 450-kilometre long Agadir Canyon. Those lumps you can see in front of us there are the Canary Islands. That big one over there is La Palma, which is where Bushcraft Bear makes all of his videos, and I really enjoy them. So this is a substantial canyon, and extra points if you get what's flowing down it. I'm going to blow it for you. It's mainly sand from the Sahara Desert, of course. Well, folks, here we have a beautiful rendering of the Montaray Bay Canyon off in California. As you can see, there is a river at its head there, but no way the river carved that. And so here it is. It's a huge canyon. It's very deep, very close to shore. Very well studied, by the way. If you look up Montaray Bay on YouTube, you'll see plenty of gear on it. Well, folks, here's some more interesting bathyspherics of the Hikurangi Channel. This thing is huge. It's just astounding if you know New Zealand at all. There it is, blasting its way out through the Hikurangi Plateau. And there's the canyon, the Kaikoura Canyon, which is up top. And Kaikoura, of course, had a big earthquake recently, which shook a lot of sediment. And this is a rendition of what it would look like if there were no sea level there. So it's pretty specky for sure. So the Perth Canyon, folks, just off Rottnest Island, or Rotto. A substantial undersea canyon, being extremely well studied. Lots of information on it out there. If you need to know more, you know how to find it. Well, folks, we didn't talk much about this in the fly around, but these are the canyons, the subsea canyons off the Murray River at Adelaide and Kangaroo Island. As you can see in that little diagram there, they believe they line up with the paleo channels of the Murray River. The same is for the Swan River in Perth. The Perth Canyon somewhat lines up with the paleo channel of the Swan River, and I have little doubt the Brisbane River has the same paleo channel lining up with the canyon off Moreton Island. So yeah, the rivers don't cause them, but you know, nature looks for the path of least resistance and the lowest energy, and if there's already a valley there, it's not going to dig a new one right next to it. So the big boy in the room, the Bass Canyon, over 100 kilometres long. I worked in sail, never heard of it. Mates worked on the oil rigs, never heard of it. Here it is. It's a serious canyon, 4,000 feet at the bottom, and that continental shelf's only a few metres deep, a few hundred metres deep. So it's got a lot of potential energy, as we now know. But anyway, it's a fantastic canyon, it really is. So a few more canyons off Queensland. We have the Noosa Canyon there, the Tin Can Bay Canyon, or Tin Can Alley as it's called, the Inskip Slide, the Wide Bay Canyon, and a series of Fraser Canyons. And to the north of that, between Lady Elliot Island and Sandy Cape, we have this massive subsea turbidite that heads out into the Tasman Sea. Unfortunately, the LiDAR data's a bit incomplete up there. So I think that'll do us, but there's plenty more. Well, folks, that's Submarine Canyons done for now. If you've got a submarine canyon that you want to know more about, flick it to me. Let's look at it together. Either in the comments or send me an email. I don't mind. There are a lot of them. You can't do anything in detail too much, but anyway, see how we go. As we went past, we saw Bushcraft Bear. He's based on La Palma nowadays. First came across him when La Palma blew up, and he was the only one there covering it. And makes some great in the wild videos. So I'll put a link to him in the description. And as we went past Exmouth, we went past, apart from the Omega station for American submarines, we went past Brody Moss. He's based at Exmouth, and he produces some amazing videos under Youngbloods. And if you like seafood, it's just going to make you hungry. Just is. Anyway, produces great videos. Mad as a beat axe, but sounds like a really nice guy. Got a great dog. Pretty cool girlfriend as well, by the sound of it. Puts up with him. So it looks, he produces some great videos. So check him out. Again, link will be in the description. What are we going to do next? Well, I think we're going to get a bit chilled out next. We're going to chill right down. I think we're going to have a look at some ice ages in Brisbane. You thank Rob from Walkabout with Rob for that. I don't know what made him think of it. Anyway, we'll see. He's shoveling snow out of his driveway. Possibly.
Probably should try and get rid of some of
So,
this stuff right here.
Just remember, geology rocks. Keep rocking. T-Rocks out.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. And may God have mercy on your soul.